Hey, what's going on, everybody? Locked On Badgers. Thank you for making this your first listen every day. Great show today. We're going to get into sports card investing a little bit and how to get a little skin in the game if you're a Johnny Davis believer, which y'all know that I am. All that and more on today's Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every single day. Free and available on podcasts, YouTube. If you found us there, welcome to the show. Like I always tell you guys, thank you for joining us. We're trying to build this Badger community, and we got a great show today. We're doing something a little unique. It is off season, so we're trying to bring you guys some content that's maybe a little different. We're going to talk a little sports card investing. I got my dear friend and honestly the most knowledgeable sports fan I've ever met in my life, and a guy that's been in the hobby for a couple years now, joining the show. We're going to bring him in now. Is Mr. Chris Grace. Chris, what's up, my friend?
Oh, what's up, man? You're too kind. You are too kind. All things are well.
I am so excited to have you on the show. One of the things we wanted to do, we've teased it on a couple shows, is kind of get into sports card investing and take from an angle of, as a Badger fan, is there a way for us to kind of get some skin in the game? Maybe Johnny Davis coming up, or is it a look at Russell Wilson, J.J. Watt, Jonathan Taylor, that kind of stuff? I want to first start with, there's a lot of guys that are watching this show who might have invested or collected cards as a kid. I did, you did, and then fell out of the hobby. And there's probably some people watching the show that have never gotten into the hobby. So if you could, and your guy's been collecting for a couple years, you got back into it. How has the hobby changed in the last 3 to 5 years in a very broad sense? I know that can be a very nuanced question, but from a big picture.
Well, Ryan, first of all, it's awesome to be with you. I'm privileged. I wish that I could, spend today talking about Jim Sorgi, but for the point of today's podcast, we'll focus on the topic at hand. It's been crazy. So, basically what happened was, and it was timed perfectly with the pandemic, all the people like me and you who were, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, like everyone when we were growing up that collected cards, we all kind of, whether it was wanted to talk to girls or wanted to go to college or wanted to start a family or whatever, we kind of just moved away from it, right? There was what they refer to as the junk wax era, which is, all of the card collecting that basically happened from when we were collecting cards. So none of our cards are valuable, right? Like all the cards that are valuable are from before we started collecting, to basically when Mike Trout was a rookie, right? So, and then what basically happened was there was this weird window between 2000 and 2016 or 17 where there was still a market, but it was kind of a niche market. And then with the pandemic, for whatever reason, people were like, oh, there's a window here. I remember this. I have a little bit of money. I have maybe a stimulus check to spend. I have, all the time in the world on my hands to go to every Target and Walmart. And the card game kind of just exploded. And it also, obviously, it doesn't explode if there aren't people for it to explode for, right? So you had guys like Zion Williamson, John Morant,
Luka's in that, obviously.
Luka Doncic, of course, Fernando Tatis, Vlad Guerrero Jr., just to name a few, right? Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna Jr.
On the football side, you got Mahomes and the quarterbacks that came through.
Of course. So that is kind of the next level. But what's interesting about it is you had this whole era of guys like Peyton Manning. There's really not a huge market for Peyton Manning. There was kind of a lost generation of guys. So, I don't know if that makes sense to what you asked me, but basically what ended up happening is that all these people who stuck through the process and were interested in collecting, when the pandemic hit, it became a free-for-all. And it went from you could get whatever you want at any retail store like a Target or a Walmart, to literally people would show up in a pandemic wearing masks, waiting in lines for 5 hours to have the opportunity to spend hundreds of dollars on something that may or may not be worth money. And that's kind of where we were at during that. And it's starting to kind of level out a little bit, but it's become almost a stock market on it of itself, really, Ryan. That's what's kind of happened.
And that's exactly, again, I wanted to go right to there, and you put it out there perfectly. I think people need to, if you are interested in this, not look at it as sports card collecting. You almost look at these cards as individual stocks, and you're buying into a player. You're buying into a Johnny Davis, or you're buying into a Zach Wilson, whatever it is. And
Jim
that's
Leonard.
Jim Leonard. Well, man, if I could get some Jim Leonard autographed rookie cards, I might have to go on eBay and get those. But you're buying into these stocks, right? And that's really where that next level of sports card, when we talk sports card investing, which we're really going to focus on in this show, we're talking about treating these players almost like an individual stock, and you're buying into that.
Well, right. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it doesn't take a genius to be like, oh, I'm going to buy Apple or I'm going to buy Amazon, right? Like, it would have taken a genius to be like, oh, I'm going to buy Apple before they release the iPhone, right? So when it comes to sports card investing, like, I think it's pretty obvious, there's two reasons for doing this. One is you want to make money. And then two is that you just really love sports and you want to be able to collect and have something as a keepsake for your favorite players and your favorite teams, right? So it's kind of twofold. Like for me, like I collect the Mets because I love the Mets, right? But I don't buy and sell the Mets. I collect the Mets because I love the Mets. But then there's opportunities to find, like under the radar rookies or under the radar players that maybe people don't know how good they are. And that's where it becomes a stock market. When it comes to like we were just talking about, like Amazon or Apple or whatever, yeah, it's not a genius that says that, but it might be a genius who says, oh, I'm going to buy stock in Peloton. Well, maybe it's not a good example now because Peloton stock is dumping, but it would have been right before the pandemic. It would have been someone who's really smart, right? So that's how you have to kind of look at sports card investing. Like, everyone's going to always know that the number 1 and the number 2 draft picks are going to be desirable. But if you're a sports fan and you have the opportunity to know something that other people don't know, it's just like kind of having insider information when it comes to stock trading. And there's obviously different ways to get to that point. You can do it for the love of the hobby and just like want to open cards, or you can be really disciplined and say, I'm going to go on eBay or whatever trading platform and say, I'm going to find this player's cards at the lowest number and hope that he's going to be very successful and they're going to go up. So those are that's kind of like where you are with the decision-making process.
And that's where I'll go next. So for someone getting into this or re-getting into this, and just so everyone listening understands the context where I'm at, again, like you, I collected when I was young and I just recently got back into it. Is eBay, is that where someone getting back into this, is that where they're going to go?
Well, like I said, so there's really, there's a few options here, right? So your first option is you can go to your Target or your Walmart or your Big Lots or wherever or Barnes and Noble, and you can just buy cards. And you're literally buying a scratch-off lottery ticket when you do that, right? And it's fun. And if you're just in it to have cards and have a keepsake, that's great, right? If you are trying to play the stock market per se, then yeah, eBay is probably the way to go. There's other forums, but in terms of if you really pay attention to it, yeah, eBay is probably the way to go because it's just the biggest at the end of the day. Whether it's the best is up for debate. There's flaws in the matrix like anything else, but yeah, I mean, if you have something that's desirable and you put it on eBay, it'll sell. And if you want to buy something, there's going to be a lot of options on eBay and you could find something, right? So yeah, I think eBay is still it's kind of the mothership at this point. It's, a great analogy is it's like ESPN, right? Like as sports fans, we all acknowledge that like ESPN is not perfect. It's far from perfect, right? The days of watching Dan Patrick and Craig Kilborn and Keith Olbermann and Stuart Scott they're never coming back, right? But ESPN is still better than a lot of other alternatives. So like eBay is not perfect, but
it's mostly safe.
It is, and there's some safeguards in there, and it gives you the opportunity to basically find whatever you want. So, yeah. I mean, I know you have other interests in terms of buying and selling things, and you know that as well. Like it just kind of it's the best of the worst at this point.
Well, I think it also gives you the ability to see, especially for the things on auction, a fair market evaluation because you're seeing other people bid on it or not. You can kind of see that fluctuation happen in real time. Coming up next, guys, we're going to keep Chris on here as long as humanly possible. We're going to dive a little more Badger centric and open the box of Johnny Davis a little bit and just talk at a high level, some strategies to get in on the ground floor with a rookie that maybe you buy into. Again, I buy into Johnny Davis. But first, today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. I have talked to you guys a ton about this product. I love it. It's become my nutritional sidekick for 2022. Throw it in the backpack, go to the gym, work out, 20 grams of protein a bar, 100% pure chocolate. It is an unbelievable powerhouse to help you get in shape, fuel your body. And it's not something that you eat and you feel guilty about. The flavors are incredible. I've talked to you guys. I have 2 boxes, on top of the fridge right now. I got the churro and the birthday cake puffs, which is just incredible. My kids tore it apart because, again, it tastes like a candy bar, y'all. But it is 100% protein bar infused with health, nutritional, everything you need to keep you on this journey for 2022. Health is wealth, and let's get it together. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15. Promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. Promo code LOCKED15 at built.com, 15% off your order. Thank you guys again for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every single day. Can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all tuning into the show. Subscribers have been going up on YouTube. It means a lot, guys. It really does as we build this Badger community. We're going to get Chris Grace back on again, talking the hobby, sports cards. And now I want to get a little more specific, Chris. This is one of the reasons I really wanted to have this hobby talk now is because the lottery's coming up. The NBA draft is coming up. And this isn't going to be a Johnny Davis show per se, but it's not often Wisconsin's got a dude where, if you want to get in on a rookie card that from a program you follow and a guy that you believe in, and a lot of Wisconsin fans believe in this Johnny Davis. They believe in the hype. They think he's underrated. What type of strategy are you looking at if there's a rookie that you believe in? And I just want to start it at a high level. If you want to get in on the ground floor, especially with a prospect, Johnny Davis isn't a top 5 pick probably. Where are you looking to start there?
So honestly, I think you're in a pretty good spot here because I don't think the nation at large, unless you love running for the border, I don't think the nation at large, sorry, that was a bad Taco Bell reference.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Sorry. Unless you love Taco Bell, I don't think, and obviously the Badger fans know Johnny Davis, but I don't think the nation, at large is really that aware of Johnny Davis, right? So I think he's in a good spot. I think he has the potential to fall in that like 10 to 15 range where he can maybe play for a potentially winning team. So it's a little dicey, right? Like the top 5 guys are always going to be overhyped and potentially underachieving. And there's going to be 1 or 2 of them that are going to crush it. And then there's going to be like 2 or 3 of them that are going to be like garbage and a waste of, resources, right? So what you want when it comes to a prospect is you want someone that's affordable and that there's a risk reward factor, right? Like Zion Williamson's cards have been some of the most expensive cards in the history of the industry. Mm-hmm. And Zion Williamson has played like, I don't know, has he played 100 games? Has he played 80 games in his career?
You're probably, that's the ballpark.
Right?
Yep.
Like he sat out the whole playoffs and was doing, J.R. Ryder dunks for fun.
It was
like,
sad.
Right. So like you have to understand what you're getting, right? You have to know the mentality of the human being and you have to know the mentality of the team. You really want a guy who's a guard, I think, who's going to touch the ball, who's going to have opportunities. And then you want the hype wagon. Like a guy can go to Sacramento and die there. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of the situation. Like the Oklahoma Cities, the Sacramentos, the Minnesotas to a lesser degree. Like those places are places.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Et cetera.
Well, not Charlotte because LaMelo Ball's cards are worth a lot of money. But
to your point, number 2 pick.
Correct.
Right, a top 5 pick guy.
Correct. You have to find the right situation. But I think, with any of these guys, when you have a guy that's not drafted in the top 5 or the top 10, you want to get in early if you believe in that person. So for Johnny Davis's perspective, if you are a fan and you're a believer, then get in there. But there's a line that doesn't need to be crossed, which is like, if you see a guy, whether it's Zion Williamson or whether it's Cade Cunningham or whoever it might be, if his prices are so astronomical, like how do you justify there being a profit margin
The reward's not going to be there for
there?
that.
No, like so you're
Unless
basically saying unless he is Michael Jordan,
That's
there's
it.
no there or LeBron James, there's no scenario where he is profitable.
Which is
Right?
where, again, to your point, I think Johnny Davis falls into that sweet spot. Again, if you're a believer in Johnny Davis, which a lot of people on this show are,
Sure. Who
and
doesn't
some
love a
people aren't.
6'6" scoring guard? I mean, there's a lot to like there.
But let me get even more specific with you. So get in early. I agree. By the way, if you're on YouTube right now, you can see I am getting in early. This is my Johnny Davis autographed rookie
Nice.
card, number to
He's
30.
not even a rookie yet.
I know he hasn't even been drafted yet. So
That's
I
Leaf.
am. It is Leaf Metal, a product called Leaf Metal. It's numbered to 30, and we're going to get into just a little bit more of this without taking a crazy deep dive. And if you're listening on the podcast, I apologize. I wish I could visually send that image to you as well, but it's just an autographed rookie card I got of Johnny Davis. I'm preaching what I'm selling, guys. Buying what I'm preaching. I don't know the exact terminology there, but more specifically,
Ryan's a believer.
I'm a believer. I'm a total believer in Johnny Davis. I think the offensive system he was in at Wisconsin, teams loaded up on him. He's a total dog. He's a two-way guy. I think he's going to outplay his draft position. Now, what that actually means, we'll see.
He played hurt at the end of the year.
He carried that team offensively.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to ask a little more specifically when we're looking at, so let's get in early on Johnny Davis. Again, we're going under the context that we're believers, right? So let's get in early.
We are believers.
We're total believers. I feel like I'm pulling you along a little bit, but I have enough belief in me to carry us both if necessary. What type of product are you looking for? And so there's numbered rookies, which means they're not produced in as high numbers. Are you looking for an autographed rookie? Are you looking for a graded card? And a graded card, for those that don't know, is something that's been sent in and kind of given a grade. Where are you actually looking? Are you looking for one high-priced rookie, like a really nice one, or a couple lower-priced ones?
Well, so listen, again, this comes back to like, what are you in this for? Are you in this because you want to have cool keepsakes of someone that you really love? And I'm guessing most of the people listening to this are Badger fans. I would assume every single one of them are. So they want keepsakes of Johnny Davis that they love, right? So they're not trying to buy and sell his cards.
Well, what if we want to do both? What if there's a middle ground there where we're buying it because we're Johnny Davis fans, but we're also doing it as an investment?
So it's a little tricky now because the licensing situation has gotten a little cloudy here. I don't want to overwhelm people with too much stuff, but yeah. So you're not going to find graded cards of Johnny Davis because they don't exist yet, right? But the most solid investment that you can make is buying into a PSA graded card or a BSG graded card, more PSA for basketball, because it's kind of locked in. Like you don't have to worry about the condition or what someone else is going to say about it.
Can you really quickly just a 2-sentence explanation of what is a graded card, like a PSA graded card, for example?
Yeah. So basically you send your card in and you spend a lot of money for someone who's supposed to be a professional to determine from 0 to 10 what level your card is, in terms of the conditioning, whether the corners, the surface, whether there's a scratch or one of the back has a little scratch line on it, or one of the corners doesn't look perfect, the centering, and they graded on all those things. And it's gotten really out of control over the last few years. So I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think it's a little overrated.
Nope. I think that's perfect. Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the most important thing that you could focus in on is buying. If you want to buy the cards of this person, you want to buy them from the right products. So traditionally we grew up and it was Topps products or Fleer or Upper Deck, right? Those were like the three brands when we were kids: Topps, Fleer, and Upper Deck for basketball. Well, what has happened is that the licensing changed and the Panini company bought the licensing for basketball. So they own all the rights of basketball cards that have logos on them. For baseball, Topps owns all the rights. For hockey, Upper Deck owns all the rights. So what you want for basketball are Panini products. The problem is Panini's kind of a crap company. I'm saying that because I don't care. They don't do things very smoothly. They're very overpriced. They have products that come out when they feel like it. They kind of hold the consumer prisoner a little bit. I know you've experienced this a little bit with your renaissance of collecting.
I have, yes.
Yeah. But what's happening is Fanatics basically purchased the rights to all of the major sports, and they're going to be transitioning the licensing. So it's going to shift back over to Topps. But for now, if you want basketball cards, you basically want Panini Prism, Donruss Optic, and Panini Select. But the irony is, like, literally Panini Prism and Panini Select haven't even come out yet for this past year's basketball season that's about to be in the NBA Finals. So that tells you like where Panini is at when it comes to production of cards.
Right.
Their flagship card brands haven't come out yet, and the season is literally over in a month.
Yeah, true.
It's a ridiculous situation. When the cards go back to Topps, everything will be better because Topps is just a more legitimate company. But Panini has become the brand. So yeah, if you can go on there and you can find Johnny Davis cards that are graded, that's awesome because their value is not going to change. But I think the number one thing you want to do is see where Johnny Davis is valued, and you can tell by not just eBay, but whatever team he gets drafted by. Say he gets drafted by the Brooklyn Nets, right? I don't know. They finished 8th in the East or whatever, so they draft 15th or 16th. There's probably a scenario where Johnny Davis doesn't get crazy minutes for the Nets. I don't know. I mean, I would assume they have decent guard play. I mean, I know they have decent guard play. Maybe he has great minutes for the Nets and becomes a star because they have cap issues, right?
And then he's in the big market too, right?
These are big markets, so then he becomes overhyped, right? So like these are things you want to pay attention to. Realistically, you have to ask yourself: is it worth spending my whole wad on someone that's going to play 6 minutes a night? And then on the flip side, is it worth paying $500 for someone who might just be best case scenario, a 15-7 guy, right? Which is a nice player. Like, is Richard Jefferson worth spending $500 on his rookie autograph card? Probably not.
If you would have speculated on him at that point, right? No,
probably not. He had a great career, but like, there's no value there. So,
right.
Those are the things you have to think about. I know that wasn't like probably the clearest of answers, but yeah.
I think you're hitting at the crux of it, though. Is much like the stock market. Again, there are a ton of factors that influence it. There's no stocks you can look at and say it's going to go up if A happens, right? It's a confluence of A, B, C, and D, and all these things working together. And I think that's, again, where we've talked about there's a speculative nature here.
Well, right. So just to kind of sidetrack a little bit, and maybe this will be a good perspective. So for instance, like last year's NFL season, right? Like everyone's focus was on the main rookie quarterbacks, which would have been Zach Wilson,
Trey Lance,
Trevor Justin Lawrence, Fields, Trevor Lawrence, right? Mac Jones, right? So those were the guys, and the majority of the focus initially was on Trevor Lawrence. That was bonkers, hobby hype on Trevor Lawrence, and then of course Mac Jones stumbled into the best situation. So then now it's Mac Jones, right? And then there's guys that no one pays attention to. Well, who's the rookie quarterbacks that might have a chance to play and be successful? Davis Mills with Houston, Ian Book potentially with New Orleans. Now, these are guys that you can buy in on at a penny on the dollar. Whereas with Trevor Lawrence, if he becomes Peyton Manning, you're maybe making your money back.
Right.
So like these are the situations you have to think about. And I don't think within the hobby, it's become kind of a pop culture thing. I don't think people are willing or worthy of taking the time to scout players or to scout situations to know, what makes sense and what is just a pipe dream. Because if you're spending, like I said before, if you're buying Apple stock at $150 a share, like where's it going to go?
Right. You're not in the point where you're going to make that money back. Typically, you're buying a lot.
You might make a little money, but like, what does the guy have to do for it to be a value prop there, right? So that's kind of the way you have to think about it. Like, it's easy to say, oh, the Patriots are going to be good this year.
Yeah.
I'm speaking historically. It's easy to say Duke basketball is going to be good this year. Every year when the top 25 comes out in basketball, magically Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan State are in the top 10 every single year. They don't finish in the top 10 every single year. These are basic dudes that are making these prognostications because they're too lazy to dig a little deeper into who might be good and who's not going to be good, right? It
So again,
doesn't
you're
take
really looking for that confluence of risk reward, that sweet spot of
course.
yeah. I wanna pause there because we got one more segment we got to do. Coming up, guys. I'm gonna continue picking Chris's brain on this. I could talk to this dude for hours about this, and by the way, we have. Um, so coming up, we're gonna get into some other Badgers. Your thoughts on the collectability of Russell Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, the Watts, and see where you're at on those guys if it's too late, or if maybe there's a good opportunity on a few of those guys to jump in. Today's show, guys, is also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting information. It also has live casino games, blackjack, roulette. The website's incredibly easy to use, and it's a great spot for information on coaching moves, player transactions. It's really a one-stop shop, guys. And this is a great time to do it. NBA playoffs are kicking in. Obviously, down to the final couple teams here. A great opportunity if you have a feel for a certain team or player there. NFL futures. This is an awesome opportunity if you think that maybe you put a little money on the Niners plus 700 to win the NFC. Listen, last year Garoppolo almost got him there. Trey Lance is better than Garoppolo, guys. It's a low bar. It's going to happen. A lot of opportunities there. Baseball's mid-swing. This is a great time for a lot of sports action. If you have a feel on something, take a couple bucks, have fun, test your sports knowledge, bet online where all the action is. Go to the website, latest props in action, bet online where the game starts. Thank you guys again for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. We're going to bring Chris in. Got another segment here. We're going to wrap up on this, and I'm also really excited for this one. So we talked a little bit about speculating on a rookie, right, with Jonathan Davis, Johnny Davis. What about a guy like Russell Wilson, Wisconsin quarterback for a year, has been in the league for a long time, Hall of Fame quarterback track? Is this where is the opportunity there to potentially buy in on a Russell Wilson rookie? Clearly that he's been in the league for a long time, moving to Denver, won Super Bowl. Is that an area where it makes sense to invest, or is that pretty much plateaued and there's not a lot of room for growth at this point, and it's a long-term hold?
I like how you said Wisconsin quarterback for years. You mean a year?
It feels like years.
Yeah. So with guys like that, like their market is kind of set, right? So, yeah, I mean, he can go if he were to go to Denver and explode, like that would create a little bit of a buzz, probably within like the Bronco fandom. I'm sure like his first cards with the Broncos will be, desirable, but at the same time, it comes down to wins and losses. His market is kind of set at this point. Guys like that, who have established themselves, they're desirable. He's not as desirable as a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers or a Patrick Mahomes. But at the same time, if he goes to Denver and, he starts going wild and they do big things, like that'll kind of be like a second renaissance for Russell Wilson. The interesting thing about football is it's really pretty much, I know you brought up the Watts and you brought up Jonathan Taylor. Football is kind of depressing because in terms of collecting, it really is cut and dry, just quarterbacks.
Right.
And it's so stupid and it's ridiculous. The fact that a Daniel Jones rookie autograph is worth more than a Lawrence Taylor autograph literally makes me want to cry myself to sleep at night. And the same can be said for football. There's a scenario where, and I just pumped him up, but there's a scenario where a Davis Mills card is worth more than a TJ Watt card, right? Which is absurd. It's
or
ridiculous.
Jonathan Taylor card.
It's ridiculous.
So what about?
It's ridiculous, but that's where football is. It's so quarterback centric, both in terms of contracts, in terms of marketability, and in the card hobby.
Because that's where I was just going to go, and you jumped on it. It's really comes down in football to the marketability, and that's all quarterbacks. With I would say maybe a generational receiver or a running back. It's someone that needs touches, right? You need touches to get any type of collecting traction. Like, let's say, for example, if Barry Sanders came out in 2022 with his Oklahoma State film, right? He ran for 2,700 yards, and he was the most electric thing you've ever seen. that dude would have a chance in the hobby because he would get Twitter. He would get views.
He would have a chance. I mean, a great example is Saquon Barkley, right? Like that's kind of a modern version of Barry Sanders in terms of his college film and like how electric he was at that level. And he kind of walked in as the number 2 pick, right? Running backs don't get drafted number 2 overall anymore. And they drafted him number 2 in a good quarterback draft. But what we've seen with Saquon is his hobby value is almost non-existent.
Right. Now, he hasn't performed up to expectations either.
He hasn't, but at the same time, I mean, what running backs do?
Not many, man.
That's the thing. Running backs they're a dime a dozen, and the teams that draft them early are stupid, and the teams that don't are smart. And those are the ones that win, right? And the same can be said for the hobby. Like if you fall into that trap, then you're kind of an idiot. And if you're gonna fall in love with your own, so whatever team you may support, if you are a fan of that team and they have a running back that gets drafted in the first round and you want to put your chips in that, do it, but do it at your own peril, because the second that guy is 3 years into the league and they cut bait with him, his value gets cut as well.
Right.
Le'Veon Bell went from being the best running back in the league to being a complete non-factor in 14 months.
Right.
Ezekiel Elliott is on that path right now. I mean, and we can go on and on and on and on, right? Like Barry Sanders is the last marketable running back that we've seen in the NFL.
Yeah, it's probably true.
I mean, you could say Adrian Peterson to a lesser degree, but he does some stupid stuff on the side. And I don't think he's that marketable. I don't think he's that craveable in a hobby sense.
Not that I've seen. Yeah. Let me ask you about a long-term hold, because you brought up Russell Wilson. The market's kind of set on him. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is similar at a higher value point. The market's kind of set on him.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about long-term holds? And I'm going to loop in both those guys, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Obviously, Wisconsin podcast. There's going to be a ton of crossover between the Packers and Badgers in the listener base.
Really?
Yeah, I would hope so, man. Although, listen, I'm a Niners fan, so who knows, right? But how do you feel about snapping up some of those cards and then just waiting for him, again, if we're talking long-term investments, to make the Hall of Fame, to finish his career, to retire? Or is the price on those rookie cards so high now that that's just not going to make a ton of sense?
So it's interesting that you bring this up. So basically what happened is when the hobby boomed in like 2017, 2018, right through now, what you're seeing is that all the value and all the crazy numbers come from those guys. So it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Joe Burrow, it's Kyler Murray, it's the next great thing. In basketball, it's Ja Morant, it's Zion Williamson. Everyone wants the best new thing. So there's still I think there's plenty of room to invest in guys that are proven commodities that the hobby will eventually realize are proven commodities, right? So whether that be Aaron Rodgers or that be Russell Wilson or that be Tom Brady is Tom Brady at this point, as much as it pains me to say that. I think that there's plenty of room to invest and prognosticate that those guys will have value. I think it's probably a smart play. And if you believe in Denver and you believe that Russell Wilson's going to, because I heard Russell Wilson on a show when he told me that he told me that he was going to stay in Seattle for the rest of his career. This was a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, which speaks to a different level. But sorry, Badger Nation. But he was speaking on he wanted to win 5 Super Bowls. Now that's optimistic, right?
Sure.
But should he win I would start with winning a second Super Bowl. If he wins a second Super Bowl, his value doubles,
goes up.
Literally.
Right.
It doubles, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think both Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson can do wonders with their career if they can figure out a way to lift that trophy one more time. Because we're talking about two guys that have done amazing things that both have just carried it one time, right?
Yep, 100%. Yeah. Guys, Chris, I appreciate it, man. I've already kept you longer than I'm kind of supposed to. So
I got nowhere to go, man.
No, either do I. I appreciate it. I really do, man. Guys, he is Chris Grace. Do you have anything that you want to Twitter, anything that you want people to be able to find you on?
You're welcome to tweet me at Chris Grace 82, just like you see right there with the number 8 and the number 2. That was Tweeter's number in It has Tweeter.
Yep. Varsity Blues.
Tweeter's number in Varsity Blues. And,
Classic movie.
Great movie. Charlie Tweeter was a great wideout.
Quick, really quick.
Yeah, he made all the plays. And he had a great end zone dance. You can tweet me at ChrisGrace82, or you don't have to. It's really up to you. I'm much more than someone who loves the hobby. I consider myself a deep individual, Ryan. So
I would agree with that.
I would agree with that. Listen, I appreciate it. I love talking all things Badgers. I mean, back in the day, we went back and forth on the Badgers, and they're kind of like my de facto number 2 team. They're definitely my Big Ten team. I'm a big fan of the legends, the leaders, and the Badgers. So
the legends, leaders, and legends divisions. Yeah, may that never be spoken again.
I just spoke it, so it's been spoken. I love summer sausage, and I love Liney's, and I love cheese curds. So
you're like an honorary Wisconsinite. I feel like a part of that's because I've rubbed off on you.
Well, careful. He has it. But no, it's totally true. I love all things Wisconsin. I love the Midwest. I love Wisconsin. I love everyone that supports the Badgers, because they're just the best people in the world. So,
That's my quote for the show.
No, it's true. It is true. It is very much true. Everyone I've met from Wisconsin is just a great human being. So, to be able to talk to some Badger fans and to some native Wisconsinites. It's always tricky. How do you do that? Do you put an apostrophe S, or do you just go?
I don't think there's an official designation, but I feel like Wisconsinites works the best.
Okay. Well, for the purpose of this show, we'll say Wisconsinites. It's been my pleasure. So anytime I can talk to my buddy Ryan and hopefully embark a little bit of knowledge, it's a good night. So,
no, I think it was great, man. I think a lot of people hopefully get a lot out of this if they're interested in it.
Well, if you have more questions, please hit me up on Twitter. And I'm more than happy to do a little bit. I don't know if it'll help, but at the end of the day, if you want to talk Mets, Jets, Celtics, Hartford Whalers, Mississippi State football, Liverpool Football Club, I'm your guy. Other than that, I'm here for everyone else.
It is a lot of knowledge, man. Guys, thank you.
UConn basketball too.
And UConn basketball. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate everybody that's listened. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. Keep in mind, after this, go and listen to Locked On Big Board on the Locked On NBA Big Board on the Locked On Network. NBA Draft coming up. We talked about that some today. Make that your second listen, and we will talk to you guys later.